without any further ado, we're going to get started here with this presentation. So to kind of set the stage here, we just want to talk about where the industry is at currently and the things that are going on. So obviously there's no elephant in the room. Everyone knows that COVID had an impact on business last year and some of this year, right? And it's not just in the manufacturing industry, but in the B2B space, in general. A lot of manufacturing companies, were focusing primarily on a traditional means of getting business, right? So, going to trade shows, networking with people, leveraging their facility as a place to meet and show off their capabilities, and obviously the traditional means of sales and marketing. And a lot of those abilities to market, right, like trade shows and things like that, were literally wiped off the map, right? Social distancing, we couldn't meet with people, and we had to find a way to meet digitally, right? So there are companies that just totally traditional means of marketing and sales, and obviously with that, having a difficult time being found online. There's also companies like we had clients in the beginning of COVID who saw this as an opportunity, right? And they wanted to step up, and they saw it as a way to improve their digital presence and really reap the long-term benefits of that. And then you've got companies that dip their toe in, but they didn't really get the full results of it, right? Because they didn't have a strategy, they didn't have a total game plan. They just said, hey, let's run some ads and drive some traffic. It'll get us leads. This is what we hear all the time. And that's not really true, right? And that's frustrating when you're spending money on your marketing and you're not getting a return on investment. So, we're assuming that if you're on this call, hey, you're in the B2B space, you're probably in manufacturing industrial. That's a hope of ours. And also maybe you've tried some digital marketing, maybe you've tried to generate some leads, and maybe you just didn't get those results. Or maybe you're totally brand new to this thing. You're like, hey, I kind of need to know what this is about so I can consider using it. And that's good, right? Our whole goal of this conversation here is really to just get you guys thinking different, on a high level about lead generation, about sales, and about digital marketing. So with that being said, this isn't a doom and gloom scenario, right? COVID's receding, right? So, things are opening back up, production's going. With last year being slower in manufacturing and there being a downturn in production, a lot of our clients are explaining to us that they're actually busier this year than they were the year previous with things being normal. But that's not really sustainable because that was just backlog work. But at least some of that work's being made up for, right? Companies have adapted well to social distancing, and this opens up a huge opportunity for companies like yours, companies like ours, companies like everyone's. People are getting used to tuning on Zooms, right? They're getting used to meeting with people digitally, and they're getting used to doing business with companies that they might not actually be able to physically meet. And this opens up a huge opportunity for these companies, right? Go ahead, Dan, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, just to compile on that, it's not all doom and gloom. And we've had a ton of our clients that have really taken this, seen this whole thing as a huge opportunity, right? They've been, the 8 most dangerous words in business is this is the way we've always done it. And a lot of our clients have said, hey, listen, I understand I need to, kind of pull away from the traditional model and, migrate much more to a pull strategy versus a push strategy and really get into the digital side. And we've seen a lot of growth for a lot of clients with having really good success there. So, sorry, Kari, go ahead.
Totally, Dan. Yeah, and really, what we're going to try to show you here and demonstrate here on this webinar it's not a quick fix solution. It's not just like, hey, how do I my sales were down last year? How do I get my sales up this year? This is a much more long-term approach, right? This is a holistic approach in figuring out who your brand is and the true value that you guys provide. In building a machine around that where it literally generates leads for you that your sales team can field and carry out and turn into new clients. So this is a long ball strategy. This isn't like some quick fix to make up for the times that have happened now. You can use it now, right? But this is about preparing for the future, right? Preparing for when times are good and when times are bad.
You're setting the stage for the next 5 to 10 years rather than just trying to get quick sales over the next 8 months, for sure.
And obviously, that there's companies that are doing this and that are winning. There's a reason that companies like ours exist, is because there's companies that are investing in digital and they're investing in lead generation and they're winning, right? And those brands that are winning are really just putting in the work. That's the biggest thing, right? They've taken the time, they've figured out what their customers are looking for, and they've figured out a way to articulate the message online and drive the traffic, right? So really, what we're trying to say here is it's just time to think different. It's just time to think different about traditional sales and marketing, and start thinking, more as a process and more as a customer journey is really what we're trying to say. And this is a pretty good example, right? Because there is a lot of things changing in the industry now. This illustrates, right? I don't think anybody on this call remembers a horse and buggy, or is old enough to have had a horse and buggy, because it doesn't really exist anymore as a means of transportation. The automobile came in, and the brands that adapted to that and created created the cars and created automobiles and put a business around that are the ones who survived and the ones who thrived. And right now we're seeing something somewhat similar with the new EV market and the new autonomous vehicle market, and privatized rockets going to space and trying to get people into outer space, right? These are all new markets that are emerging, which with it brings a ton of new companies that have a need for services for manufacturing, right? So there are new doors opening, which is awesome. It's just about honing in on those people and delivering that message to them, so they understand that you're not only a viable option, but you can help them. Like, you can be a true partner in their success. So, this is all great. That's a lot of, it's a lot of talk, and at a high level, it's a good idea, but like, how do I actuate this, right? So how do I go from being, at this end of the spectrum where, like, I've never really done digital marketing, I don't really know anything about it, to creating this, awesome machine that, runs 24/7. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't sleep, right? It's your salesperson who never complains, never needs a vacation. How do I do that? And that's what we're about to explain now. Dan, do you want to add anything there? Or?
Oh, you're good.
So the first step of this, guys, the first step is really in creating, a solid brand, right? Because our whole strategy here is we're going to create a brand that we drive traffic to. And the brand, like, let's start like what a brand is, right? A brand's like way more than your company logo, right? It's what you stand for. There's a famous quote, and this really wraps up in a really short, easy to understand way on what branding is. Like, your brand is what people say about your company when you're not in the room, right? It's what people think of you, like top of mind awareness. Hey, this is who this company is. It's your quality mark. So, irrelevant of what your logo is, when your logo's, on something, right? Like it's on your business card or it's on your website or whatever, people see that, they identify it, and they trust it. And that's done over time, right? But it's really important in the beginning of a branding process, in the beginning of any campaign, that we look at the brand from a holistic point of view, right? We see if there's any holes in it. We see if there's anything that we need to improve before we start investing time and money into driving traffic to your site and to other means.
No, absolutely, Corey. I completely agree with you. I mean, so much is about just your brand defines who you are, what you do, the clients that you serve, and what your belief system is, right? It's your why. It's why you get out of bed every morning. It's every person on your team, whether you do, $3 million in annual revenue or $3 billion in annual revenue. It's what you convey to your target market about how you can help them every day.
Yeah, and also think too, it's
simple as that.
It's the first impression to the customer. So, when you go on a website that's dated and it's not custom and it just doesn't have a good look and feel, there's no user experience, like it's just like blah, like, hey, we build parts, like it's not as attractive as if you land on a professional website that's mobile friendly, that's branded well, that has a strong message and call to action on the value that you provide. You're more likely to view that company as being professional versus a company who kind of just has maybe a website slapped up, or it just has a dated look and feel. This is about staying current. This is about staying modern, right? And so in doing the brand, right? The first step in this is doing a brand assessment. And mileage might vary a little bit here. This is kind of a high level overview of what a brand assessment looks like. We could have an entire webinar on doing a brand assessment because it is a huge topic, but we don't have time for that today. So we're just going to take you kind of through, like, hey, before you start doing, any lead generation or real digital marketing, the first step in doing that brand assessment before you ever make any of these changes or drive any traffic. So, the first step in the brand assessment, do a SWOT analysis. I'm sure you guys all know what a SWOT is. A SWOT's super important in figuring out and kind of defining the unique values that you add as a company, right? And why people should buy from you. So that's going to entail a ton of information and give you a good gauge on that. Do some competitor research. So, competitor research can be done is, looking at your competitors' websites or the content they're creating, or using different softwares, which we can talk about a little bit later, on search traffic, things like that. But doing competitor research and understanding like, hey, these are the markets that our competitors are now going after. Look at their website as a professional, and there might be opportunities here too that you can take advantage of things that they're not doing, right? That they're not doing properly. Like maybe that your local competitor is, going after the electric vehicle market, right? But they're not really doing a good job of promoting that on their website when people are landing on it. Well, that might be an opportunity for you to scream from the rooftops, hey, we're experts in this, right? Creating buyer personas, and you probably get multiple buyer personas. A buyer persona is literally like a perfect framework of who your perfect customer is, right? And that's very important in framing out, so you understand the brand message that you want to promote, and you fully understand like why people buy from you, right? So, the reason people buy from you isn't necessarily because you have like this specific machine that makes these specific parts. It might be more related to like, hey, we buy from your company because you guys are able to provide, for example, like, precision CNC milled prototype parts in an extremely rapid manner. So that person really cares in their buying, habit about, expediency, right? Because it's a mission critical part. They need it like the next day, and precision, right? So those would be two things that you would identify in the buyer persona, and that they want to carry out through the messaging of your brand. Identifying other unique values that you provide your customers, right? And these should be unique to you, right? There's going to be some bleed over in things that you promote that competitors are promoting too. But what is a true value that you're serving your audience? Consistency, right? So this goes more into the actual message and identity in where the brand lives, right? So when you look at your website, and then if you have social media, if you're using social media, your traditional means too of where the brand lives in the world, is it consistent? Is the message consistent? Does your current identity speak to who you are today? Meaning, if you haven't, updated the brand in quite some time, but your business has changed, right? There might be opportunities that are available for your customers that you're not promoting with the brand. And
yeah, Corey, just right there, real quick. Your current identity speaks to who you are today. Chances are, and we see it all the time with a lot of our clients. You started your company 40 years ago. Or you've been in business 70 years, whichever that is. And over the last, 20, 30 years, whatever that looks like, chances are your service offerings and your capabilities of serving your clients and your ideal audience has probably changed dramatically, right? But has your brand kept up with that, right? Corey talked about buyer personas, right? Chances are your company, you might need 2, 3, 4 different buyer personas, because your buyer persona for someone that's looking for mission critical, tooling in aerospace, that buyer persona might be vastly different than someone in automotive, right? And if you do the good work and drive that traffic to those pages, it just increases if the messaging is spot on and the audience is right that's being driven, it just speaks directly to that high, increasing the chance of conversion. That's it. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Thank you. And taking an honest assessment of your sales process too. Like your brand doesn't stop at your website; it doesn't stop at the way it looks and feels. Like the people that are fielding, the people that are fielding the customers that want to work for you, or working with the customers that are working for you, need to be educated on what the mission is of the brand and why you guys exist, because that should bleed over into the way that they're servicing those accounts, right? Your brand is your salespeople and the people that work for you are a total extension of your brand. And include an expert, right? So I definitely suggest working with somebody who's done this before, right? Whether it's an agency, whether it's a consultant, whether you have maybe somebody on your team, like maybe you have an internal marketing person, definitely consult them in this process. If they've had experience, it's gonna make this much more defined. So this is really just a high level. There are resources online too, where you can Google and say how to do a brand assessment. There's some really good content out there that's gonna guide you the right way. But this is definitely like the first step of this entire program, right?
And it's crucial to have somebody that is somewhat experienced with it, because you have to be critical. You guys, chances are your brand, you've thought of a very specific way for years, and sometimes you need somebody just to come in with a soft set of eyes and say, okay, well, I know what you think that you see, but this is, again, from a non-partial perspective, this is really what the marketplace is seeing. So yeah, I couldn't agree more that, it helps, whether it's a consultant, whether it's an agency, whatever it is, it really helps to have a soft set of eyes on it for sure.
So once you have this assessment done in taking action on this, right? Here's some steps, things that you need to do. And once again, this is super high level. Creating a brand guide. Your brand guide's pretty much your Bible and your playbook of your brand identity and who you are. So that's going to include, your mission statements, your actual logo. Like maybe you've updated the logo in this process because it was dated. That will be in the brand guide. It's going to showcase, the proper and improper usages of the logo, so people aren't just out there, throwing your logo on pink backgrounds and lime green backgrounds. Like this stuff happens if you don't have brand guidelines. Like people don't. There's rules with the logos, right? Using proper consistent fonts to build that identity. Font has a big play in the expression of your brand and keeping it consistent. All the buyer personas, like this is like a playbook of like who you are as a company, mission statements, values. I think I said that. All these things need to be in this brand guide so that you have basically a playbook and something to refer to moving forward, so that you're always staying true to that original message that you're promoting. The brand guide can evolve, it can change over time, but the goal is that if something changes in the brand guide, it changes globally, right? And you want to stick as close to this guide as you can while you're building this brand. Creating a strategy on how this will relaunch. So now you have to look at, okay, so we updated the look and feel, we have new fonts, we have a new message that we're portraying. So now it's time to look at your social media outlets, right? How are we gonna promote there? Take a look at the website. It probably needs to be updated. And they're not just digital too, but look at things in the outside world as well. Business cards, email signatures, maybe vehicle wraps, things like that, signage. You want to make sure everything's consistent. For sure. In updating that, right? So there's creating the strategy around the relaunch and then making those updates. It's important to create a strategy around it. And it's also important too, like when you're rebranding, it doesn't mean like a complete departure from everything that you did. It's really just the evolution, right? So some of what you had before might bleed over into this new brand, which is okay. Like, you're probably not just going to run out and change your name, right? Like you might keep like a consistent, color theme, with the brand that you're using before. But, the idea is that, we're transitioning, we're making it more modern. And really what we're trying to do here is focus on what you're doing today, right? And what you're going to be doing for your customers in the future and the value that you provide. So this was this is just an example of a client, Tower International, who we helped with their website and some social content. Dan, I'll let you explain this if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah. This is a super fun project, actually. So Tower, they had a really unique situation. So they had all the business that they could handle at the time, right? This is a couple of years ago. And they came to us and they said, well, hey, the true issue that we're having is we can't find, identify, hire, and retain mid to senior level engineers and managers fast enough. And how do we help that, right? So right away we knew that, okay, so for the website we wanted to humanize the brand as much as possible. We wanted to show multicultural diversity in the workplace. We wanted to show award-winning and all these really cool stuff, because we wanted to make it as attractive as possible. But at the end of the day, after really doing some more research with them, well, I'll sum up a long story short, but we ended up creating a campaign that really spoke to story arc of their employees, right? And ran digital ads and did interview footage and all this kind of stuff. Point being is, after we launched the campaign ran for 3 or 4 months, and I can't remember, Corey, what was the exact results of the campaign?
They reported to us that over the course of like a 3 to 4 month period, they had a 1,500% increase in employment applications to the year previous. And that was really, Tower had a name, but the website in the message they were forwarding before, like from an employment standpoint, it just wasn't right? The website wasn't easy to use. It was hard to navigate. It was just dated, and they weren't doing a ton on socials. So that's where we put the majority of our efforts.
Exactly. So I think it was, some of the effect of, just under 5,000 extra applications, which was the only KPI that mattered to them, right? So I mean, a lot of what we're talking about, it's not just about lead gen. I mean, there's ancillary benefit, there as well. But this is visually illustrates the point that Corey's trying to make. So go ahead, Corey.
So, at this point, we've, you've updated the brand, right? So you've got a good framework to work from. And, we internally, we call this, the drive marketing ecosystem. Really, this is representation of, hey, you've got the framework laid, your website's updated, everything's rebranded. You've got the right message out there and all, right? And now it's time to start driving traffic, because if you don't have any traffic to the machine that you're building, to the brand that you're building, it's just gonna sit there. It's like you know the Mona Lisa locked in the closet. Like nobody's gonna put eyes on it. Nobody's gonna interact with it. Nobody can buy from you, right? So so what we're gonna do here is kind of just go through what that step process is, as far as not only like things that you should be doing, but the customer journey mindset and how to carry them through that journey, guide them through the journey rather. And the first step in this, like I said, is exposure. So, you know, I'm sure these are terms you've heard of, you know, organic SEO, you know, how you rank on Google when people search you, you know, paid search, you know, you can pay to rank, right? Which isn't always as effective as organic, but it might be something good to run at the beginning while your organic search is building, you know, using social media, content marketing, email marketing, you know, direct marketing and word of mouth, right? So these are all just means of driving that exposure, right? The first step goal here is just to get the stuff in front of people. And you know, luckily with digital marketing, you know, you can be pretty targeted. Like on some of these platforms like LinkedIn, like you can literally search for like, hey, this is like I want to target, you know, 35 to 55-year-old you know, engineers in aerospace and, you know, manufacturing in Texas, you know, Houston, Texas, and that work at Delphi or whatever. Like you can like super target on like the people who you're actually trying to interact with, which is nice. But you need to use some of these channels in order to actually build that exposure, right? So that's just like level one is like, hey, you know, we built the site. Now it's time to start getting that brand in front of people. And remember here too, like, you know, it's important to stay consistent. Like you want a message that is consistent and matches the brand guide. So discovery, right? So discovery is when the exposure basically starts working, right? So discovery is when people have seen the ad a few times, right? Maybe they've seen, you know, some online ads. They've you know, maybe they've received an email from a salesperson. You know, they've been targeted on LinkedIn. They're getting an ad served to them. You know, they search for some kind of product or service. They sort of listen on Google. They say, you know what, I've seen this company a bunch of times. I'm going to click through and I'm going to tune in and learn about them. So it's really important at this stage in the process, right? From getting it from exposure to discovery, that where the person is clicking feels like a customized environment for them. Can't stress that enough in how important that is. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, like let's say you're a company that serves both, you know, the automotive and the aerospace market, right? Those are two completely different sectors that care about different things, right? Like aerospace doesn't care that you do automotive. Automotive might care that you do aerospace, because it shows that you're like, you know, you really have your stuff together because you're able to serve that market. But that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for automotive. So let's say you have an aerospace, you know, inquirer or a visitor rather, and they see this ad and it's whatever, a video about aerospace and there's a link. But when they click through the link, they just go to the homepage of your site, and the homepage of your site has, you know, mainly automotive. That's not going to work, right? You want to send them to a landing page that speaks specifically to what they're looking for to increase the likelihood of making them actually consider, you know, your company. And, you know, a few good ways to do that, you know, using video to showcase your company and capabilities. You know, video views and rates are like through the roof. You know, it's like growing every single year, like more YouTube views, more time on the phone, more time watching video, and our attention rate is getting a little bit slower too, right? So utilizing video is a really good way to engage people and inform them on what you do. You know, having strong informative content on your website. So, you know, this might be in the form of like blogs, for example, right? And what this content does is it builds you as a thought leader, and it's also content that you can use as evergreen content and sharing your social profiles, share through email. So it can go a long way versus just sitting on your website. You know, retargeting ads. A lot of these people that click on your site aren't going to stay. Like probably half the people to maybe 60-70% of these people that land on your website for the first time aren't going to click through page one, right? There's things you can do to lower that, but in average, I mean, a lot of these people are going to leave. Retargeting ads reserve them content automatically because it grabs their data, right? And it points them back to the website. So very important to have retargeting ads and clear call to actions, right? When somebody lands on that landing page, guide them like, hey, this is the reason you're here. Like you clicked on here for this, whether that is, you know, whether that's whatever, you know, some kind of give, whether it's, you know, to request a quote, you know, maybe you're promoting like, you know, 3-hour quote time turnarounds on like, you know, emergency parts or emergency service or whatever that is. Just make sure when they're landing there, it's super clear why they're there, because you don't want to confuse people. And I'm going to play this video real quick. This is an example of a video. I think Schwab's on the call today, actually. This is Schwab Industries, a video that we shot for them. They did a really good job in helping with this, but I just want to show this to you so you have a good good idea of what we mean as far as quality content.
Beginning of the design and helping them with the design through building stamping tools and simulation for that stamping tool, to producing the part, to putting the assembly together, to putting the full vehicle together, and all the fixtures that are required from the individual detail fixture to the final assembly fixture, and then be able to put that together in a quality environment. No one else in our business has. No one else has all of that under
Oops, so it could be
the one roof. It all happens right here.
Yeah, Corey, that's a very simple way to, I mean, video is the easiest way to tell a story. And when you want to convey, whether it's, who you are, your history, your lineage, or your capabilities, or, how you serve, clients and everything, it's a very easy story to tell, through a 30-second video, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, if you try to tell that story in like just written text format, it just doesn't translate the same way. So
Right.
Get creative with the way you're telling your message. Video is just a super powerful way to engage people and make you look professional. So
Absolutely. And this graphic, which is cool, whether it's SEO, cool content, videos, paid ads, social, email marketing, whatever it is, right? Everything points to your website, right? Your website is your marketing hub for everything that you do. You've got your buyer personas dialed in, the messaging is correct, speaking to those buyers. And then you've got the right traffic driven through a multitude of different vehicles, right? That's when it all starts working. And like Corey said, not everyone's going to be in absolute buy mode. Not everyone that lands on your website, you're always going to have people that bounce, you're going to have a bounce rate, right? You're going to have some people that make it into your funnel, some people that, still linger at the top of your funnel. That's just awareness. Now they understand who you are, what you do, and how you do it. But they might not be in buy mode. So, I mean, and we could talk about retargeting and remarketing to them, later, but this is really the machine.
all right, so now they're in the consideration phase, right? So they've been exposed to your content. They've clicked through, they've visited your website, they've seen your videos, maybe case studies are a great thing to have in your site too, to explain the value that you've actually provided in real life circumstances. But whether you're actually allowed to use your customer's name or not, it's just a good way to tell a story. They've seen your blogs, maybe they like that you're involved in the community, maybe you're promoting that. But the point here is that, like, let's say Tim is his boss says, hey, we need help with this specific project, find us a vendor, and he sees your ad. So just exposing yourself to him gives you the opportunity to even be a viable option, right? He clicks through, so now he's in discovery, and he goes, hey, okay, yeah, these guys look legit. So he goes to his Tuesday meeting and he says, hey, boss, I got two different companies that I'm looking at, and one of them is yours. And he says, all right, cool. And he has a couple other people tune in, and now everyone's on your site. And they're going, wow, these guys really are legit. That's consideration. Like, there's things going on behind. This is not like B2C sales where, like, hey, I see a Facebook ad of like a cool whatever, t-shirt, and I click through and hey, as a digital marketer, we need to make sure that this button's orange because it's going to increase conversions, and it's like a real quick sale, right? Put it in the shopping cart, make the ad experience seamless and sell it. This is a lot different in the respect that, like, this is a longer process. So you want to make sure that the website is like super solid, because when people come back to visit it, right? Like Tim went to his team and said, hey, check these guys out. And now they're engaging with you. Now they're considering using you, and there's more eyes on this stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, what's important to note here is that, again, this is a step process, right? And at this point, people are on your website for the right reasons, which is invaluable, right? But not only are they, at this point, they're on your site for the right reasons. Now they're reading case studies and watching more videos and learning, the totality of your capabilities, right? And the case studies reinforce buying behavior because now they're understanding, oh wow, they actually do X, Y, and Z on top of A, B, and C. That's wonderful, right? So they're getting a much more broad stroke of who you are, what you do, and who you serve, which is, I mean, that's one step closer to converting for sure.
It's something to do too, to consider is like what we've been doing today, right? Like, hey, host your own webinars, right? And like, if you need help with this stuff, there's resources out there, obviously, like we do this for people and other companies do this for people, but we're not trying to make this feel like, this is all on you. There's definitely resources out there to help you with this, but host a webinar, or, creating white papers for a download to capture their data, right? This is all super valuable stuff, not only for you in growing that relationship with the client, but making them feel like you're working for them, because that's really what you're doing at that point. If you're creating content that really is just like geared at any value to them, that starts building that relationship, and it starts building that trust, and building that, that top of mind awareness, in their mind. So
awesome.
And this is kind of the moment everyone waits for, is, conversions, right? When somebody visits your website and they either become, a prospect or they become a customer, right? This is kind of the moment we all wait for. So, but in order to get to this phase, first you had to have had exposure. So you've had to get in front of them. Then they have to decide to click through and discover you. Once they discover you, in order for them to start considering you, right, that message on your page has to be totally geared towards them with a clear call to action on next steps. And if you've done all these things right, you've retargeted people, you continue to drive traffic, these people are going to start converting because you're driving the right types of people to your website that care about you. We're not talking about driving everyone to your website, right? We're talking about driving the types of people that actually care about your business and want to do business with you. And if you get enough people on your website and you have the right message and the right capabilities that are looking for services that you have, at that point, it's just kind of a numbers game, right?
Right. And guys, you got to remember, you're not going to close all your leads, on day one, which is actually a good thing, right? Because some people that are, in the research and development phase, right, of who, finding out who you are and what you do and all that kind of stuff, again, they might not be in buy mode, like we mentioned before. And so it's okay if they don't convert right then and there, because you have their information. Now you start building a database, and now you're consistently throughout the course of the year, 2 years, 3 years, you're broadening that database that you sit there and consistently market to. So when they are in buy mode, you're the first person that they go to, right? So a lot of times you're planting the seeds, they might not come to roost, for 6 months, a year, 2 years, but it doesn't matter, because, you're getting leads in the door, and then you're also cultivating leads for future sales. And that's what we, at the beginning of this webinar, that's what we mentioned. This isn't a, hey, I want to drive sales in the next 90 days, or my pizza's free kind of thing. It's much more a global perspective about how you want to operate and your pull strategy versus push strategy over the next 5 to 10 years, right? Or to and process that. So yes, but to aggregate all that database for the breakage or the prospects that fall off is still really valuable.
And as far as increasing the amount of people that actually contact you, like take a look at your website. Are you doing these things right now? Like, do you have multiple ways for people to contact you, right? So you have multiple contact forms on pages that are easy to find. Is your phone number up there? Are you listing emails of your salespeople or purchasing people or people to contact? You have one thing I see a lot is like people like set up these company LinkedIn profiles and like they don't check the messages on the profiles, right? And like that's a huge thing. Like you need somebody in place vetting this stuff and actually, making it easy for people to contact you. Like that's what a lot of this does, but also vetting it, like having somebody in place to actually follow up with these people in real time. Because a lot of this stuff is just timing. Like somebody's reaching out to you because they have a need today, right? Like they've made the decision, they're impressed. It's important to be impressive back. And like, whether it's, using automation to send them an email that says, hey, I'll contact you, we will be in touch with you very shortly. Or maybe in that email, you have a link to a Calendly link, right? Where they can schedule a meeting, that they can see your whole calendar and just automate that process and make it super easy for them to contact you. But the whole idea here is that like once they convert, hey, make it easy for them to contact you and get in touch. Like give them multiple ways of doing that. Make sure you have somebody in place to help with that and use automation to your advantage, right? And this is just kind of like a high level graphic of what we mean by automation. But you've got all your marketing channels are working, right? So you're driving traffic to your website, right? And in this example, maybe you have some kind of, free give or digital download, a webinar or something like that, where you're collecting that information and getting people to engage with you, right? Some of these people are going to leave, and that's fine, because we're going to retarget them and get them back to the site, until they're no longer interested, or until they convert, right? It's sell up or sell out. Here, yes, they've said yes, they've raised their hand and said, yeah, I'm interested in learning more about this. And here, based on your strategy, things might vary a little bit, but the idea is to, like I said, have somebody in place here, have some automation as far as like emails being sent to that person, serving them more content after they've downloaded that piece of content, adding more value, and staying top of mind. And the goal here is that you convert these into new customers, right? So that's an effort of sales and marketing working together, instead of sales and marketing working as like two separate things. Because a lot of times they don't work in unison like they should, but they really are on the same coin. They're just kind of different sides of that coin, if that makes sense. And the reason we want to talk about retention too, right? Retention is the big thing after you've converted somebody into a lead or into a customer. So, retaining and working those leads that have driven the website, once again, that can be done through an automated process with like using some software and tools to follow up with them and serve them content, right? The customers that you've got, can continue to serve those customers with value-added content too. Because what that's going to do is you can strategically tell a story of all your capabilities, right? We run into situations sometimes where a company, a manufacturer might have, multiple disciplines that they offer, and a customer's, contacted them for one discipline, and they really are never educated about the other stuff, right? This takes out some of that potential human error from a sales standpoint and helps promote the brand better, right? And explain all the things that you do and all the value that you can offer. And also, using things like Zoom to your advantage, right? Just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean that we shouldn't be meeting. Scheduling, especially in the beginning or in the busy times of the project, just a touch base with people, right? Hey, this is where we're at, this is where we're going, and that also is going to open up our opportunity for future planning and future sales efforts. So, retention is super important. It's definitely easier to keep and grow the customers that you have versus always harvesting new ones. Like I know we're talking about new sales, and that's the thing here. But I would think that if you looked at your customer list right now, there's probably opportunities right there that you can be utilizing to your advantage in helping grow those accounts.
Sure.
And tracking too, right? So like we said, this really isn't a light switch, and there is trial and error here. But whether you hire a company like ours or whether you hire, you do this internally or hire an internal team, everyone's going to have some sort of period where it's figuring things out, right? So, but the better you plan for that, the better success you're going to have. So, right up front, setting key performance indicators like, hey, this is our goal, right? Like we're trying to get X amount of contacts to the website, and that's gonna gauge and help you figure out how many people you actually need to drive there to get them to convert. Or maybe your KPI is a video view, like, hey, we want to get 20,000 views of this 2-minute video. Because we're just trying to get our brand message out there, right? So there can be different KPIs. There's tools like CallRail that we have listed here. CallRail allows you to actually track like a number. Like, so if you had like a Google number, right, or a Google AdWords campaign running, and you had a specific number where you're trying to track how many calls you're getting from your advertising specifically, like one number. You can use CallRail, and that'll track how many people have called it, what their phone number is, what their first and last name is, what company they work at, how long the calls were, and you can also record those calls. So that's like super valuable information that you can use. And these tracking systems are not expensive things. They're not a big investment. They're just added benefits to this, right? Conversion tracking in your Google Ads account to see how many leads you're actually getting and what your cost per lead is, so that you can project it over return on investment. Having a CRM, right? A lot of companies don't even have a CRM, which is crazy. But having a customer relation management tool where you can score leads where they're at in the funnel to figure out what stage they're at, where they need help moving on, and who's really the most interested, who's viewing the most of your content, and that can all be tracked. If somebody's viewing your content all the time, they're probably interested in you, and they're probably a better option if they're clicking on your site and looking around versus somebody who won't even tune in. So this isn't just some kind of fountain that turns on. It definitely needs to be tweaked and adjusted over time. But reviewing and adjusting is kind of how you hone in and figure out that perfect marketing message. The marketing's granular, right? The message is super important. The way that you're serving the ads are important. Where you're serving the ads are important. What time of day you're serving the ads are important. Like there's the creative and there's the analytic side of this whole thing, right? And the creative and the analytics need to blend in together to give you that well-rounded ecosystem that's going to grow your business, right?
Right. I mean, essentially, you know, if you have marketing activity and you're driving lead gen and all that kind of stuff, if it's not traffic, I mean, we joke around the office, if it's not trackable, it didn't happen, nor does it exist, right? Because if you don't track it, then it's how can you possibly recreate it, right? How can you make that part of a part of your process if you don't put a metric around it? So yeah, absolutely.
So just a high level overview here, you know, on lead generation. So, you know, you create that brand strategy and that brand assessment, right? You take that, you update the sites, your website, you update, you know, the internal, external communication of the brand and make everything consistent, right? And while you're doing this, you're building that marketing machine, that marketing strategy. So, you know, you're setting the framework for that. You start driving the traffic to your website, and people start visiting the website, and some of them are leaving and some are staying. So the ones that are leaving, you're remarketing to with retargeting ads. The ones that are staying and signing up and saying, yeah, I'd be interested. Well, now you have a marketing funnel going and you're serving content to these people to increase the likelihood of them actually becoming a customer, right? You're building authentic relationships with customers and prospects, which is super important to show people that you're there for the long term and you're really there for them. And you're measuring results and you're adjusting, right? You're not just setting your campaign and forgetting it, which a lot of people do, and that's like a huge reason it doesn't work. You need to track, we need to adjust, and we need to implement and make changes to make this really work. And now it is time for questions.
Yeah, guys, just throw questions into the chat, and we don't have a ton of time to spend on questions, but obviously everything we went through is kind of drink it through from a fire hose. So yeah, I mean, are there simple questions that we can potentially ask?
And let's say we got one. If you want to address this, how long does this process take?
Sure, great question, Michelle. So, I mean, a lot of it is it depends so much on where you are in your cycle, right? If you have huge gaps on where your messaging is, and the look, the feel, the taste of your brand, and how much traffic are you generating right now, and how it's so dependent on where you are in your life cycle, really. But traditionally, timeline under not optimal circumstances, but kind of middle of the road, to tighten up branding and to build a website and create the machine, you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 6 months to accomplish all that, right? And then the rest of the year might be, creating that marketing strategy, starting SEO and all that kind of stuff. So really, the first year, it's just working on all those things, right? And will you be driving more traffic and more leads, by the end of the first year? Yeah, for sure, right? But the real gauge of measurement is year 2, 3, 4, 5, and moving forward through that and using that time to adjust and look at data, look at your metrics, see what's working, what's not working, and and drive that all day. So hope that answers your question. Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, John, here, which social media platform should I be using, and what type of content is most effective? For manufacturing, probably the best B2B platform is LinkedIn. It's a very good platform. It's very searchable, and their advertising is very targeted too, like we kind of said before. You can, as far as like creating the right kind of content, so it's kind of a combination of 2 points. So your content should be informative, right? Whether it's a video, whether it's a blog, but it needs to point somewhere. It needs to have a next step, but it should also be lasered in on the person that you're marketing to. So like I said, if you're marketing to, let's say your buyer persona is a 35-year-old, aerospace engineer that works for Boeing or a company like that. And, that content that you're servicing to them should talk all about your capabilities or the value adds that you have for aerospace, not for automotive, not for anything else. This piece of content is like tailored for them. And when they click through from that content to learn more or to get an assessment or whatever that thing might be that you're offering them, right? You're giving them something authentic and real and value added. Once again, that page speaks to them. So, yes, it's very good to use video content. Video content is a great way, like top of the funnel exposure, like get people aware of you, right? But it's equally as important just to make sure that message matches that person, because you're actually able to get like super targeted with your approach nowadays.
All right. Great answer, Corey. Eric's asking, is mobile compatibility more important for the manufacturing industry?
I don't think it's more or less important. I think it's just important in general. So like if you look at the analytics of some of our clients' websites in manufacturing, like about 50% or more of the traffic's actually coming from mobile, depending on the client. Like if you looked at Tower during their LinkedIn campaign, their mobile usage was like considerably higher than desktop because there was a lot of traffic being driven from LinkedIn, which is a lot of times using the phone, right? So yes, like mobile compatibility is super important. It's a huge indicator that you need a new website. If people are landing on your website and it's not mobile, like if you look at statistics, like conversion rates go way down. Usage rate on the website goes like way down. Like people just leave. They don't want to view it. It's just too hard. It's too hard to use on the phone. Like nobody wants to drag and drop, right? If you look at all the big apps out there, it's a seamless experience, and that's the expectation now, is to create a seamless experience on all websites.
No, exactly. And that's, I mean, the look, the feel, the taste, everything that your brand has to offer needs to have that same feel, whether it's on desktop, on mobile, on tablet, and a trade show booth, in a, piece of collateral, in a quote, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's vital, and it really matters a great deal, no matter what industry you're really in. I guess that's the quick and easy point, right? Cool. Corey mentioned marketing and sales working together versus against each other. Can you share an example of how sales and marketing can and should be working together?
Yeah, I think it's really just bringing, if you have a marketing department, or whether you're working with an agency or whoever, that like they have a relationship with that sales team, so they're both working towards the same goal to promote the same thing, right? Like, because if your marketing team doesn't fully understand what your sales team's promoting in the field and like what customers actually want to buy, then you're just doing a bunch of creative for no reason that doesn't really resonate with those people. So that's kind of what I mean, is like marketing and sales should get along. They have their own functions, right? But marketing is supporting sales, right? And marketing is supporting sales by helping them market, but sales is supporting marketing by giving them actual like in the field experience, or in the field recommendations on, hey, these are what our customers are buying. This is what they care about, right? And having that tight relationship it's a partnership, right? It's being more effective.
All right. Hey guys, tons of questions coming in, and unfortunately we won't be able to get to all of them. But we're happy. Here, I'll post our contact information. If any of you guys want to jump on a quick 15-minute call that we can actually dedicate more time to, I'll put that in the chat as well. Corey, can you talk a little bit about the give that we have for everybody?
Yeah, sure thing, man. So yeah, this is the give for you guys. I'm going to put a link to this in the chat too. Or Dan, if you don't mind doing that, would you mind?
Yep.
Grabbing this link real quick, and we'll send this to you guys in emails too. Everyone who's been on this webinar, we're going to extend a personalized digital marketing audit to you for free, right? So this is actually like customized for you. It's not like something that everyone's going to get the same one. We're actually going to take a look at your website performance and run some testing to give some real examples of things that you could do to improve your website, not only from like a messaging standpoint, but also from like a technical standpoint, because part of this stuff is like technical search, technical things that need to be done to get your website to rank and get traffic. We're also, like I'm saying, we're going to do an SEO review. So the SEO review is going to look at your website's SEO and also look at your competitors, right? And make you understand, like, because a lot of times, you might have like 3 local competitors that, hey, these are our competitors, this is who we compete against. Well, you might have competitors that you don't know about, like across the country, who are ranking for all the keyword terms that you want to rank for, right? Like
happens all the time.
Yeah, like it happens all the time. So we're going to just show you, hey, these are the top players in your space and what they're doing and how you can take advantage of that. And then we're going to do a review of your brand too. We're actually going to take a look at your website from a branding standpoint, from a user experience standpoint, right? We're going to look at your social media profiles and give you suggestions on all this stuff, on actual stuff that you can do specifically for you. So we'll send you this link out. I'll make sure it gets emailed to you guys too. It'll probably be the easiest way to do this. I'll send an email out to you later today, and you just click on the link. There's a landing page with a form, and then there's a link to our Calendly link where you guys can schedule a time. We're actually going to walk you through this and explain it to you, because we know a lot of this stuff can kind of be confusing if you don't have experience in it. Like, if you guys were trying to explain, super detailed engineering things to us, like we understand it at a high level, but like in the weeds, don't get it as much. So we're happy to review these things with you, and we'll schedule a time to do so. And guys, that's pretty much it from us. Here's our contact information. Like we said, we help manufacturing companies every single day with this challenge of getting more awareness, of making their brand look more professional, and of driving actual results to their business. If you guys are interested in utilizing an agency for this, we'd be more than happy to talk to you. We're more than happy just to jump on the phone too and answer any questions you had, like Dan. So don't feel like if you contact us, we have to do business together. Like, we're really just happy to help you guys 100%. Like, mean that from like, for real. Like, just reach out to us. We're happy to give advice, and we have a lot of experience in this space. So
Absolutely. It's our why. It's why we jump out of bed every morning. So yeah, feel free to reach out, guys. We've got our Calendly links in the chat. Just email or call, whatever you guys need.
awesome, guys. All right, thank you so much for your time. It looks like we're like 5 minutes early, so that's awesome. You guys can, hopefully you had a nice lunch on this call or something, and enjoy the rest of the week, enjoy the rest of your day, and like I said, reach out if you have any questions.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.